Most men believe women are looking for perfection, perfect looks, perfect money, perfect confidence, perfect words at the perfect time. And because of that belief, men pressure themselves to perform, to impress, to prove, to never mess up. But this belief is exactly what creates the behavior that pushes attraction away. The truth is far simpler and far less stressful. Women respond far more to emotional self-control than to perfection. Emotional self-control means you are not ruled by your impulses. You don't react instantly to discomfort. You don't crumble under uncertainty. You don't explode when things don't go your way. You remain grounded when plans change, when a text is delayed, when there is tension, when you are misunderstood. This calm presence communicates something deeper than words ever could. I am stable within myself. And stability is rare. Perfection feels brittle. One crack and it shatters. Emotional control, on the other hand, is flexible. It bends without breaking. When a man tries to be perfect, he becomes tense. He monitors himself constantly. He fears mistakes. He overthinks every interaction. That inner pressure leaks out energetically. Even if he says the right things, his nervous system is loud, and people can feel that. A man with emotional self-control doesn't need to be flawless because he knows how to handle friction. If a joke doesn't land, he doesn't apologize excessively. If she disagrees, he doesn't argue to win approval. If there's silence, he doesn't rush to fill it. He allows space. That space is powerful because it shows he is not afraid of losing control of the moment. This is why indifference to outcome is often misunderstood as not caring. It's not a lack of interest. It's a lack of emotional dependency. The man still shows up. He still leads. He still engages. But his emotional center is not outsourced to her reactions. Whether she is enthusiastic, unsure, or distant, he remains himself. That consistency builds attraction because it feels safe and real. Women experience the world emotionally. They are constantly reading signals beneath words. When a man is emotionally regulated, it creates a sense of ease. There is no pressure to manage his feelings, reassure his ego, or stabilize his mood. That freedom is attractive. It allows desire to emerge naturally instead of being forced through effort. Notice how often attraction fades when a man starts reacting more. He becomes sensitive to small shifts. He questions tone. He seeks reassurance. He tries harder. From his perspective, he is being caring. From her perspective, his emotional volatility increases. And with volatility comes uncertainty. With uncertainty comes loss of attraction. Emotional self-control does not mean suppression. It does not mean being cold or detached. It means awareness. You feel emotions without becoming them. You choose your response instead of letting your reaction choose for you. You don't dump unprocessed feelings onto someone else and call it honesty. You handle your inner world with maturity. This is also why status, looks, or money can't compensate long-term. Those things may create initial interest, but if emotional regulation is missing, attraction erodes. A man who can stay calm in chaos, grounded under pressure, and centered in uncertainty will always feel more solid than a man who looks perfect but reacts poorly. When you stop chasing perfection and start mastering your emotional state, your presence changes. Conversations slow down. Eye contact deepens. Tension becomes playful instead of anxious. You stop trying to impress and start allowing connection to happen. And that is when standards quietly drop, not because you did more, but because you finally stopped losing yourself in the process. One of the most misunderstood aspects of female attraction is how much a woman is drawn to a man who demonstrates indifference, or at least the appearance of not being overly invested. This is counterintuitive to many men who believe that constant attention, approval seeking, and effort are what earn attraction. The reality rooted in female nature is that women are often most intrigued by men who maintain a sense of autonomy, self-respect, and detachment. Understanding this principle is crucial for men who want to navigate dating dynamics effectively without compromising their self-worth. Indifference does not mean disrespect or emotional coldness. It means not being easily swayed by her moods, approval, or manipulations. A man who displays composure, independence, and self-reliance signals that his value is inherent and not contingent on her perception. Women naturally respond to this because it demonstrates confidence, stability, and a sense of self that cannot be easily influenced or controlled. It challenges her to engage genuinely rather than attempt to dominate or test the relationship dynamic. The psychology behind this is straightforward. Scarcity creates value. When a man is constantly available, eager to please, or desperate for validation, he inadvertently diminishes his perceived value. Effort without resistance signals neediness, which is generally unattractive on a primal level. Conversely, when a man invests selectively, prioritizes his own goals, and does not overextend to secure her attention, he positions himself as high value and self-directed. Women are naturally drawn to these traits because they signal strength, independence, and the ability to navigate life without external dependence. Indifference also manifests in how a man reacts to her behaviors. Emotional overreactions to flirtation, attention seeking, or manipulation can make a man appear insecure or needy. Maintaining calmness and neutrality while still engaging genuinely when appropriate demonstrates mastery over one's own emotions. This controlled detachment communicates that while the relationship or interaction is of interest, it is not a determinant of personal happiness or self-esteem. Women respond to this balance because it mirrors the natural equilibrium of attraction. The man is desirable, and the woman is free to engage or withdraw without triggering desperation. Another key element is prioritizing personal purpose and goals. Men who are deeply engaged in their own lives, whether it's career, hobbies, physical fitness, or personal development, project a sense of fulfillment that is magnetic. A woman observing this does not see a man clinging to approval. She sees someone with a life that is meaningful and rewarding, which paradoxically makes her more interested. How indifference in this context is not neglect, but a reflection of internal focus and the ability to derive satisfaction from self-achievement rather than external validation. It's also important to recognize the subtle difference between indifference and arrogance. True indifference is grounded in self-assuredness and emotional maturity. It communicates that a man's attention is earned and that he values himself enough not to be manipulated. Arrogance, on the other hand, is about entitlement or dismissiveness, which can repel rather than attract. The balance lies in confident detachment, caring about oneself first, being selective about attention, and engaging authentically without being overly accommodating or needy. Ultimately, mastering the art of indifference transforms interactions with women. It shifts the dynamic from chasing validation to creating natural intrigue and mutual respect. By embodying this approach, a man becomes magnetic not through effort or performance, but through presence, self-respect, and the freedom to engage on his own terms. Many men believe that attracting women requires constant effort to impress, showcase accomplishments, or earn validation through words and actions. This mindset, while well-intentioned, often backfires because it signals neediness rather than confidence. Female nature responds more to a man's internal stability than his external performance. Women are drawn to men who are unshakable. Men who do not seek approval are grounded in their own worth and remain composed regardless of her behavior or attention. Understanding this principle is key to navigating modern dating dynamics effectively. Being unshakable means your sense of self is independent of external validation, including from women. When a man attempts to impress at every interaction, he implicitly communicates that his value is contingent on her approval. This creates a subtle but powerful imbalance where the woman holds emotional leverage. In contrast, a man who demonstrates calm assurance, makes decisions confidently, and maintains his priorities communicates that his life and identity are not dependent on anyone's approval. This quality is profoundly attractive because it mirrors strength, self-reliance, and emotional maturity. A critical aspect of being unshakable is emotional consistency. Women naturally test men through subtle challenges, flirtation, teasing, or even passive-aggressive behavior to gauge how they respond. A man who overreacts, becomes defensive, or tries excessively to regain favor signals insecurity. On the other hand, maintaining composure, responding thoughtfully rather than emotionally, and not allowing small provocations to disrupt equilibrium demonstrates inner strength. This emotional stability creates a magnetic presence fostering respect and attraction without overt effort. Another dimension is the ability to live fully within your own purpose. When a man is deeply invested in his goals, passions, and self-improvement, he communicates independence and fulfillment. This is far more compelling than any attempt to impress through material possessions, status, or constant validation seeking. Women are drawn to men who have a life that is vibrant, meaningful, and self-directed. Unshakable men attract naturally because their value is inherent and not contingent on performing to meet external expectations. Being unshakable also means embracing selective engagement. Not every interaction requires overexertion to win approval or prove worth. A man who prioritizes his energy, responds thoughtfully rather than reactively, and engages authentically without overextending demonstrates that he values himself and his time. This selective engagement signals confidence and self-respect, both of which are highly attractive traits to women. The paradox is that the less you try to impress, the more interest you generate. It is important to distinguish being unshakable from being aloof or arrogant. Unshakable men are present, attentive, and responsive when appropriate. They are neither dismissive nor indifferent to genuine connection, but maintain an inner stability that makes external fluctuations irrelevant. Arrogance repels because it signals entitlement or a lack of emotional intelligence, whereas unshakable presence draws respect and intrigue effortlessly. Ultimately, the key to embodying unshakable presence is internal alignment, knowing your worth, valuing your own time and energy, and remaining composed regardless of external circumstances. When a man masters this, he no longer chases approval or validation. He attracts naturally, effortlessly, and with integrity. And through this shift, interactions with women become less about performance and more about authentic connection, respect, and mutual intrigue. One of the most overlooked truths about attraction is that confidence, when expressed naturally and without overcompensation, is profoundly magnetic to women. Many men confuse confidence with constant proving, showing off wealth, achievements, or social status in an attempt to impress. While these traits can be attractive in moderation, overcompensation often signals insecurity rather than strength. Female nature responds to authenticity, stability, and self-assuredness, not to someone trying too hard to earn approval. True confidence comes from within and manifests as calm certainty, unshakable presence, and the freedom to engage without needing validation. Confidence without overcompensation begins with self-awareness. A man who understands his own value does not feel compelled to seek external confirmation. He recognizes his strengths, accepts his weaknesses, and moves through life grounded in self-respect. This internal assurance reduces the impact of external judgments, making him appear naturally attractive. Women are drawn to men who embody this quiet power because it signals reliability, emotional maturity, and a life that does not revolve around external approval. A critical aspect of this type of confidence is consistency in behavior. Many men fluctuate between assertiveness and overeagerness depending on the situation or the woman's attention. This inconsistency creates an impression of instability and insecurity. A man who maintains the same calm, assured demeanor regardless of circumstances conveys strength of character. Women instinctively notice this steadiness as it suggests emotional resilience, independence, and the ability to navigate life without unnecessary drama. Another factor is the balance between self-interest and engagement. Confident men pursue their own goals and passions while remaining present in their interactions. They do not overextend themselves to please or overcompensate for fear of rejection. This selective attention communicates that their time and energy are valuable, which paradoxically increases their appeal. Women naturally respect and are attracted to men who demonstrate autonomy and self-direction without needing to prove worthiness constantly. Overcompensation often emerges through behaviors like excessive gift-giving, constant reassurance, or dominating conversations with accomplishments. These actions, though well-intentioned, reveal underlying insecurity. Women may perceive this as neediness, which diminishes attraction over time. In contrast, confidence without overcompensation is about allowing actions, presence, and demeanor to speak louder than words or material gestures. It is about being comfortable in one's own skin and letting the interaction flow naturally without trying to control the outcome. This form of confidence also requires emotional regulation. A confident man does not react impulsively to challenges, criticism, or subtle tests. He remains composed, listens attentively, and responds with clarity rather than defensiveness. Women are drawn to men who demonstrate control over their emotions because it reflects strength, reliability, and maturity, qualities that are universally attractive on both a conscious and subconscious level. Ultimately, confidence without overcompensation is magnetic because it embodies self-sufficiency, authenticity, and stability. It requires understanding that attraction is not earned through constant proving, but through being fully aligned with one's own identity and values. And by mastering this balance, a man becomes irresistible, not through effort or performance, but through the natural presence of assured self-confidence. One of the most powerful yet misunderstood aspects of attraction is the ability to project a sense of not caring too much about outcomes, opinions, or external validation. Many men fall into the trap of overinvesting their energy, constantly seeking approval or trying desperately to be liked. This effort often diminishes perceived value and undermines attraction. Female nature, on the other hand, responds intensely to men who exhibit calm detachment, self-possession, and a natural disinterest in trying too hard. Learning to master this subtle art of not caring is a game changer in dating dynamics and relationships. Not caring does not mean indifference, neglect, or disrespect. It is a deliberate state of emotional autonomy. A man who does not overreact, chase approval, or obsess over outcomes demonstrates that his value is intrinsic and not dependent on a woman's attention or validation. Women are instinctively drawn to men who are self-contained because this signals confidence, strength, and the ability to handle life on their own terms. It invites intrigue rather than reliance, making interactions more compelling and dynamic. The psychology behind this principle is rooted in scarcity and challenge. Men who are overly eager or constantly validating their worth appear abundant and available in a way that lowers perceived value. Conversely, when a man maintains a calm, composed demeanor, engages selectively, and does not overextend emotionally, he creates a natural sense of scarcity. Women are drawn to this because it subtly signals that he is a high-value individual with standards, boundaries, and a life that does not revolve around chasing approval. Mastering the art of not caring also requires emotional regulation. Many men struggle with this because they allow minor slights, testing behaviors, or lack of attention to provoke insecurity or reactive behavior. A man who responds instead with equanimity demonstrates maturity and inner strength. For instance, if a woman teases, tests, or temporarily withdraws attention, an unshakable man maintains composure, engages selectively, and does not take it personally. This restraint communicates power, confidence, and self-reliance, qualities that are deeply attractive. Another key component is prioritizing your own goals and purpose. When a man invests in his career, fitness, hobbies, and personal growth, he naturally projects an aura of independence. This reduces the need to seek approval from women or anyone else. By living a full and purposeful life, his interactions with women become less about validation and more about shared engagement, creating an organic attraction dynamic. The less he appears dependent, the more magnetic he becomes. It's also important to understand the fine line between not caring and arrogance. True mastery of this principle involves selective engagement and authenticity. It is not about dismissiveness or manipulation, but about maintaining emotional sovereignty and engaging on your own terms. Women respect men who are self-directed, who do not bend to every whim or expectation, and who approach interactions with calm confidence rather than desperate effort. Ultimately, the art of not caring amplifies attraction because it signals autonomy, strength, and emotional intelligence. It allows a man to interact with women from a position of power, intrigue, and self-respect rather than neediness. And by cultivating this state, a man naturally becomes more attractive, commanding attention and respect without ever having to chase or prove his value. The final and perhaps most crucial key to understanding female attraction is the power of consistency. Women are subconsciously drawn to men who demonstrate reliability, predictability in their values, and emotional stability. This does not mean being boring or robotic. It means acting from a place of internal alignment, where words, actions, and reactions are congruent. Consistency signals strength, self-respect, and emotional maturity, all of which create a magnetic aura that women instinctively respect and desire. Consistency begins with self-awareness. A man who knows his own boundaries, values, and priorities will act in ways that align with them, regardless of external circumstances. This creates a stable presence in interactions where women can predict his behavior, not in a dull sense, but in a way that signals he is dependable and grounded. For example, if he sets boundaries and maintains them without wavering, she perceives him as a man of integrity who respects both himself and the relationship dynamic. Another dimension of consistency lies in emotional regulation. Women naturally test men, whether subtly or overtly, to assess stability and reliability. A man who reacts impulsively, becomes defensive, or shows insecurity signals instability, which diminishes attraction. Conversely, a man who remains calm, thoughtful, and composed in all situations demonstrates inner strength. This consistency in emotional response reassures women that he is not easily manipulated, creating a sense of safety and respect that strengthens attraction over time. Consistency also applies to investment of time, energy, and attention. Men who are selective about where and how they invest themselves demonstrate self-respect and personal purpose. A man who shows up reliably for important commitments, yet does not overextend to appease or impress, signals that he is disciplined, organized, and confident. Women are naturally drawn to men who balance availability with autonomy, as it reflects a life that is ordered, meaningful, and self-directed. Equally important is consistency in communication. Words must match actions, and promises must be followed through. Women are highly sensitive to inconsistencies as they indicate either lack of commitment or lack of integrity. A man who consistently communicates clearly, keeps his word, and engages authentically cultivates unspoken respect. This form of respect often outweighs superficial traits like looks or wealth, because it demonstrates reliability and character, qualities women subconsciously value in long-term partnerships. Consistency also extends to maintaining personal standards and values. Men who compromise their principles to gain approval or avoid conflict signal weakness. By consistently upholding personal values, a man communicates confidence, self-respect, and emotional sovereignty. Women are drawn to this because it reflects a mature, self-directed individual who does not require constant external validation. This creates natural intrigue, respect, and long-lasting attraction. Ultimately, consistency is about creating an unshakable foundation for interactions. It conveys strength without arrogance, presence without desperation, and value without performance. Over time, consistent behavior fosters trust, respect, and deep attraction because it signals a man who is self-contained, reliable, and aligned with his true self. And through the power of consistent action and demeanor, a man naturally commands respect, admiration, and attraction, leaving a lasting impression without needing to chase or perform.